I keep making these updates as I hit each big mileage milestone, and every time I say to myself, this will probably be the last one. But my venerable ADV350 just keeps on giving, and after 30,000 kilometers, I honestly don't think I could live without it. I do like my Tiger 900, but I don't need it. This little scooter, on the other hand, while not perfect, is just so damn useful. I use it literally 2 or 3 times every day, and the only bike I think I would replace it with is another ADV350. And to illustrate what I mean, I filmed this typical day in the life of my scooter. Hand on heart, I chose the day at random. I think it was last Tuesday. Nothing special, nothing fancy, just an ordinary working day. I first needed to fill up with petrol, go and get some bread from Aldi for breakfast, collect a couple of packages from DHL, stop for 10 minutes at Triumph Algarve to get the latest insider gossip, buy a couple of bags of Algarve oranges, and then take the motorway back home. Standard fare for the ADV. So let's make a start, and I'll run through all the pros and cons of the scooter after 4 years, 30,000 kilometers. And starting with the pros, and I think number one is probably the performance. Now don't laugh, the ADV350's 330cc single doesn't sound like much on paper with a maximum 29 horsepower, but in practice it does feel much punchier. A relatively low weight of 186 kilos and strong mid-range torque mean the ADV really blasts off the line and easily outguns cars in city traffic. It can also cruise at 110 kilometers an hour, 60-70 miles an hour all day long. And I've seen an indicated 141 kilometers an hour, which is about 88 miles an hour on the dash, admittedly with a bit of a run-up. 29 horsepower might sound a bit pathetic, but because the CVT transmission keeps the engine spinning fast, it actually feels more like a 48 horsepower A2 license motorcycle in terms of performance. Okay, pro number 2, one of the ADV/Forza's standout features, and the main reason I bought it, the storage. Under the seat there's room for 2 full face helmets plus shopping or riding gear, and with about 50 litres of capacity, running daily errands is a breeze, as you'll hopefully see from these clips. It's why I've never really considered the Forza 750 or the XADV. They cost twice the price and have literally half the storage. I know you can fit a top box, and many owners do, but I just can't bring myself to put one on. And why would you when you've got all that space under the seat? Pro number 3 for me is the lightweight and the agile handling. At under 190 kilos wet, the ADV is much lighter than bigger adventure scooters. The XADV sibling, for example, is about 50 kilos heavier, and that pays off in the bends. Wide motorcycle-style handlebars and a low centre of gravity give it the turn-in feel of a small bike, not a lumbering maxi scooter. The Showa upside-down fork and twin rear shocks provide firm, very firm in fact, we'll see about that in a minute, firm but stable support, and the brakes, single 256mm front disc with ABS of course, are powerful and easy to modulate. Pro number 4 for me is the features and relative comfort. Keyless first. I know a lot of people don't like this, and yes, it does mean having to replace the battery and the key every 6 months or so, but I just find it so practical when zipping around like this running errands. I keep the key in my jacket pocket and forget about it until I get back home. I know it's one more thing to go wrong, but I do miss keyless when I use my Tiger. Otherwise, in terms of equipment, I went with the heated grips option. Yes, even in the Algarve, the winter mornings can be chilly. They're not super hot, especially through the grip puppies that I fit to all my bikes, but they're adequate in the mild temperatures that we have here. You get full LED lighting. The headlight is surprisingly good at night. There's switchable traction control, a digital dash which, while not particularly exciting to look at, does display all the information you could want, including fuel range and ambient temperature, and it's extremely legible even in direct sunlight. It was given a colour TFT from 2024 onwards, I think, similar to the one that I had on my Transalp 750. It's fine, it looks nice, but it doesn't really add much over the LCD display on my 2022. Oh yes, and there's a USB-C charging point in the small storage compartment near your left knee. Final positive for me, and arguably the most important, reliability. Not much to say about this, to be honest, because in the 4 years that I've owned the ADV, 30,000 kilometers, I have had precisely 0 issues. Not one. Apart from the annual oil change, it has never been back to the dealers. That's pretty impressive. No bike is perfect, of course, and the ADV350 is no exception, so let's have a look at the negatives. And the number one, without any doubt, for me, has to be the suspension. It's crashy, with its 15-inch front and 14-inch rear wheels and rudimentary rear shocks. The ADV simply does not iron out bumps as well as a larger motorcycle or even some rival scooters. In city traffic or on smooth pavement, it's okay, but rough surfaces are felt strongly through the chassis. The 2024 model's uprated rear shocks help a little, but it's still very firm. The pillion is perched directly over the rear shocks, which, according to Mrs. RM, who often travels on the back with me, makes it even worse. We have fitted this makeshift cushion and gel pad to try and attenuate the shocks a little. It's not the most elegant of solutions, but it was cheap and it is quite effective. Second negative for me is the engine stroke transmission noise. The CVT belt and variator, or drive pulley I think Honda calls it, emits a distinct and very unpleasant whine or rattle under acceleration. It's a kind of a shrill metallic sound that drives me mad. Allow me to regale you with a sample. Isn't it absolutely delightful? I've tried swapping the rollers for lighter ones, but that made almost no difference. The dealer says it's normal on a maxi scooter, but the much more powerful Yamaha T-Max isn't as bad. And the Honda Vision that we had before, the ADV or the Vespa that I reviewed a couple of months ago, are totally silent in comparison. It's even louder when Mrs. RM is on the back, as the motor and transmission are having to work that bit harder, and she really hates it too. It's such a shame, it kind of ruins the bike. So those are the two big downsides, the suspension and the noise, but there are also a couple of niggles that I think it's only fair to point out if you're thinking of getting one. And number 3 for me would be the riding position. It's perfectly comfortable at first, but the waiting room chair type position starts to give me twinges in the lower back after about 45 minutes or so of riding. It's not normally a problem, as my journeys are usually quite short between stops, but I have tried the scooter on a few day trips with friends and it becomes tiring. It's no worse than any other feet forward bike or scooter, but I personally prefer the more upright vertical position of a normal motorcycle. The ADV does have kind of fake pegs towards the back of the footboards, which I do sometimes use to stand up on, but the handlebars are too low and there's nothing to grip with your knees, so it's difficult to hold the position for more than a few seconds. So the riding position isn't the best. It's fine for short runs, but not a bike I would personally go touring on, for example. Negative number 4 for me, second minor niggle, would be the limited wind protection. Now, despite the adventure-esque styling, weather protection isn't a strong point. The screen does sit fairly high, but it's very narrow, and above about 60 miles an hour or 100 kilometers an hour, you will definitely get helmet buffeting and wind to the upper body. The ADV has more frontal area than the Forza 350 or the Forza 125, but it also has less fairing. Now, I've added a deflector to the top of the screen, although I actually removed it for this day of filming just to get a cleaner view for you ahead, and the optional Honda side deflectors to direct the wind away from my knees, and these do help a lot. Next minor disappointment would probably be the fuel economy and the range. Now, the ADV is economical compared to a car or a big bike. I average about 3.6 litres per 100 kilometres, but for a 330cc engine it is slightly disappointing. It's all the fault of the energy-hungry transmission, I suppose, but our previous scooter, Honda Vision 110, managed a much more impressive 1.6 litres per 100 kilometres with an identical ride pattern. And combined with a fairly small 11.7 litre tank, I do have to fill the ADV up a little more often than I would like. And the final moan is this: the access to the underseat storage. Why does the seat only open to about 45 degrees? It makes using the otherwise cavernous trunk more awkward than it needs to be. And I've never been able to work out why the seat can't open fully vertically like it does on the Honda PCX, for example. It's not super important, but my big showy J-Cruise open face helmet, for example, will only fit in the front part of the trunk, and I have to lean right in under the half open seat to put it in and remove it every time I stop. It's annoying. Oh, and one more thing before I finish on the rant. It's not really a criticism, this, as I knew it would be the case, but don't be thinking with the ADV name and the mixed Metzeler tyres that you'll be taking it off-road. It is not designed to be ridden standing up, there's not enough suspension travel, and the ground clearance is totally inadequate. It looks tough, but it's an adventure scooter in name only. But I think, as I said, everybody knows that. A wish list for a Mark II, upgrades that would make me change. How about, please Mr. Honda, an ADV350 with about 40 horsepower? Better rear shocks, they were changed for the 2024 model year, but they're essentially the same. A seat that opens to 90 degrees, please. Quieter CVT rollers, or some way of making it quieter under acceleration. A slightly wider, taller windscreen. And how about a larger fuel tank, say 14 litres for better range? In summary though, I love the carry pretty much anything versatility, the hop-on, ride and park anywhere practicality, and the surprisingly frisky performance. It's an extremely easy bike to live with, which I suppose explains why I've had mine for 4 years, 30,000 kilometres. It would be great if Honda could sort the harsh ride and the invasive transmission noise, but other than that, they pretty much nailed it. It's not the most glamorous means of transport on the planet, but definitely one of the most practical. I'd love to know in the comments if you own a scooter as a second bike and how you use it. And as always, thanks for watching.